Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. It's been a little bit of a break. We had summer, the kids were off. I had a lot of things to do. I'm back now. We're doing some new content, and I wanted to say thank you for being patient and welcome back. Some of the content we're going to be doing this as we move into the fall is going to kind of develop into some different things. We're going to start talking about how to set up multi-plate. We're going to talk about how to set up different things on multi-plate, how to best organize your workflows. This is really that's more of a professional level thing. We're also going to get into more basic stuff. I'm going to go back to covering a lot of the things that we are covering early on in the channel, and I'm going to refresh some of that stuff. We're going to go back. We're going to look at Lychee again. We're going to look at Chi2 Box again. We're going to probably look at Tango again. And if you guys have any other suggestions for slicers or software you want me to look at, you want me to look around, you want to play around with Prusa, whatever it is you want me to explore, I think there's a lot of options for us to play around with that. But I do need some community feedback there. If you guys have some suggestions that you'd like to see, please feel free, drop those comments for me, guys. I definitely would like to hear what your thoughts are. But anyway, cutting into this particular episode is more of me telling you guys these are suggestions. Now, the reason that I said that on this episode, wait before you start that first print. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people, they're going to buy that new printer, probably an expensive one, because most people get sold into the most expensive printer they can buy, which part of this episode, I'm also going to kind of be talking about that too. So one of the things I want you to avoid when you're buying your first printer, first of all, don't get the most expensive one they have. Yes, some of the features on the more expensive printers are going to be really tempting for a beginning printer. You're going to want the auto leveling. You're going to want the temperature control. You're going to want the auto filling resin vat. But you're not going to want the headache that's going to come with every one of those functions. The heater control is great on some of the printers that have it. The M7 Pro is a great example. And it's actually being heralded as being a printer that's kind of become a very popular starter printer. Now, for less than $600, I'm actually in agreement. This is not bad. If you wanted to jump into the world of 3D printing and you wanted a very good time of it, the M7 Pro is not a bad way to start. But there's a lot of pieces to this printer, and for an initial jump into the 4A, I think that it's a bit much for some folks. I would actually suggest starting with something like the M4 Pro or M4 Ultra. Can't remember if they call it the Pro or the Ultra now. That one has enough features for you. You've got the auto leveling feature. You've got some other functionality there that I think would help you on your printing journey to start. It's also not astronomically expensive. It's not huge. It's not a big printer. 7-inch, I believe, is the build plate size. You're not getting the full 7 inches, but you're probably getting about 6.5. So that being the case, I think that don't always think that the most expensive printer is going to be the best one. It isn't really the focus of this video, but it's kind of like my suggestion for anyone who might be buying or thinking of buying one. Consider a lot of factors. What are you printing? How much are you printing of it? And how much do you really want to spend on materials and things like VATs and stuff like that? All factors you need to consider. Cutting back into the tips about starting your first print. We'll get back to where I started. So a lot of people will start out the gate. They're going to be like, all right, I got this $600 printer, maybe more. Some folks really go and just will absolutely buy the most expensive printer they can possibly buy. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, guys. Please don't misread what I'm saying here. Okay? What I'm saying to you is that you don't necessarily need it unless your goal is to have a production facility of some sort. Like I want to make 100 minis a day or 200 minis a day, and I need two M7 Pros running, decent amounts of runs to be able to get that done. Actually, wouldn't take much because the plate's pretty big. The point I'm making it is you don't just you need it's form fit whatever function. If you're just making miniatures, if you're just making models for yourself, start with something small. Start with a smaller piece. Think about where you need to be size wise, like what you're actually going to print, and then kind of make a judgment from there. For me, when I started, I started small. The build plates, I think, on the old 4Ks, the original mono 4Ks, these old printers, I mean, going back now, were 5.5, 5 inches uh, maximum width. So, and I still have some of those guys. Believe it or not, they still work. Not really sure how the screens are still functioning. Knock on something for that one. But yeah, they work good. Anyway, before you run off and start slicing and jam that USB drive or send it over the cloud, consider these things. One, are you ready to clean it up? A lot of people aren't actually ready for the cleanup process. This is something I see on Reddit threads a lot. They make an absolute mess of everything in their room, wherever they're doing this. They're not prepared for the auto curing that happens once UV light touches it. And a lot of people will do this in light of a window, stuff like that. So when you're thinking about those factors, please use caution. Number one, make sure you're in a very well ventilated room when you're doing these prints. It should be away from any pets, animals, or children. Please. Gosh, I shouldn't even say that one. You should always have working mats, and I prefer to use silicone mats um, because they're easier to clean and they're resistant to a lot of oils and grease and stuff like that. So use silicone mat. You can get like pet mats that go under like water dishes. They also sell like big silicone mats that you can buy on Amazon for not too much money, and that will help you with things like spills. If a bottle tips over, if it's got a little lip on the edge, that's going to help you catch that. If you are removing a build plate and it drips, that's going to catch your drips. Versus, um, the drips just kind of going all over your floor. And if you've got carpet in your room, that carpet's ruined. Resin does not come out of carpet. I don't care if it's eco resin or not. It's not coming out of your carpet. No amount of solvents are going to get that out. Not without destroying the carpet fibers enough in that one spot that you're going to be like, well, that's ruined. So that's one. That's a big one, in my opinion. Make sure your environment is ready for cleanup. Now, the other thing is, do you have the proper solvents to actually clean your prints? If you're using a standard resin or an advanced resin, you're going to need isopropyl alcohol or some sort of degreaser or uh, essentially some sort of chemical agent to remove the greasy residue of the resin. This is a must. You won't be able to cure it until you can do this. Because when the object comes off of the printer, for those of you that are new, it still has a softness to it. And this is because the printing process is rapid. You could cure each layer longer, but you're going to wind up ruining your print. So because of the process and you cure each layer for a couple seconds, the end product, there's still a softness to it. Like you could take your thumbnail and put a dent in it, um, depending on the material. So you need to cure it, you need to clean it. The second part of this, do you have a curing machine or are you planning on throwing them outside and letting the sun do that job for you? If the second one was your answer and you're planning on sun curing them, keep two things in mind. The sun's wavelength, while consistent, does not cure the same way that a concentrated UV light will. If you leave your prints out there for too long, they're going to become brittle, as heat will also affect them. So even though you're tempted to leave them in direct sunlight, don't. If you're going to use the sun to cure your resin, you're going to want to leave it in an area that's going to get sunlight, but you're going to want to leave it in an area that's not going to be saturated in heat. Heat can warp resins, a lot of resins can be warped, like especially certain densities, thicknesses can warp very easily, actually. So um, that's a real heavy consideration. Got to keep that one in mind. Now, if you're doing FDM, you don't have to worry about this stuff because your concerns aren't resin and UV. You can pretty much put your printers anywhere that they're not going to get wet or be involved with humidity, unless you want to go ahead and get yourself a drying system, which a lot of people use. You know, systems that'll actually hold all rolls, color rolls, and keep them dry at the same time. I know Anycubic makes one. A few other companies do make similar devices as well. Bamboo, I believe, makes one. I don't know if it has a drying system in it. I think it does. But those are all things that you can do if you're using FDM to avoid humidity. Now, back on the resin topic, because that's usually what I discuss. The next thing I was going to mention is don't bother with those test print files unless you're absolutely struggling with the printer and you just can't get to print anything else. Don't bother with it. Really, it's a waste of time and resin, in my opinion. I have calibrated and used dozens and dozens and dozens of printers over the years, and I stopped doing that about maybe 60 printers ago. And as I use and replace and use and replace and get new printers or new hardware comes out, or I just get a new machine because I want it or need it, um, I've stopped doing it. I configure it. I set up the resin to the specifications. Usually, what I'll do in most cases, I'll go to the manufacturer's website. I'll check their recommendations for their resin settings. I'll use those into the system that I'm using, Lychee, Chitu box, whatever. And then I adjust it a little bit. Now, for my purposes, I always slow it down. And a lot of people are like, "Ooh, well, the whole point, with new printers, they go faster." I did a whole episode on this. If you want to, you can go watch that. I literally did a whole entire episode, literally called. I believe the title was "Slow It Down." The reason this is such a sticking point for me, and a lot of people disagree, is that I would rather it take 8 hours than 4, and have the print look better, and my chances of success be nearly doubled because I'm not trying to stress the printer's limitations or push it to its extreme limit. Speed printing using high speed resins and high speed lift and all of that is great. It works fine if you're making really simple stuff. When you're doing the high detail stuff that I'm printing for my clientele, I would rather not um, get any kind of massive amounts of failures where I'm just constantly having to deal with that. So for me, it's more like accuracy over speed. Now, I know folks, again, in the FDM world, you'd probably say, no, you want it done faster. FDM is a completely different animal because of the way that it prints versus, the single layer. But when I do that, personally, I always print a little bit slower than most people. Again, I'm not hyper concerned about how long it's going to take me to get my end product. I'm more concerned with what the end product is going to look like. So slow, definitely keep it slowed. But if you want to double check your settings, always make sure to check the manufacturer's website for the resin and check the manufacturer's website for your printer. Try to merge those settings somewhere in the middle, and that should be a good bet for you. And honestly, if you do this and you practice this technique and you work with the same resins enough, you're not going to need to calibrate and test and calibrate and test and calibrate and test. You're not going to need to. And honestly, here's another problem with that whole concept. A test print does not present the same level of challenges as a print. You need to actually print something or go forward with like a full print in order to really be able to judge how well that printer is working and being able to print something. My last big suggestion to all of you that are starting your first print, especially if you're very, very new to this. Just use caution, use common sense, and be careful. You're dealing with chemicals. You can hurt yourself, they are poisonous. Um, like I said before, make sure everything is ventilated. Your workspace should be clean. Make sure you clean up spills. Wash your hands. Don't eat around this stuff. There's a warning on the resin bottles that wasn't there 4 years ago, and it says do not ingest orally. I don't know who the heck put this stuff in their mouth, but I know that warning labels only usually appear because of consequence. So please, guys, be careful and use common sense. I think that's the biggest tip I can give anybody that's starting their first print. And as far as your printing and learning how to do it, I've got tons of episodes that'll train you on how to start from step one all the way to a finished sliced piece ready to print. And we're going to do more episodes as time goes on. The channel will get more advanced, and hopefully, you're going to learn with us and you're going to help me grow the community like the rest of the community has. And as always, I appreciate you all watching. I hope that these tips were informational. And I know for some of you, if you're definitely not new to printing, this isn't something you should know already. But things that I probably also should have mentioned is you'll also need a lot of tools. Most people aren't ready for this either. I know your printer came with a couple sets of gloves and a scraper. Do yourself a favor. Go get yourself a nice little putty scraper with like a wooden handle on it. You're going to need that. Get yourself a silicone spatula so you can stir up your resin vats. Don't use the plastic one they gave you. Also, in terms of cleanup, get yourself a couple packs of microfiber towels on Amazon. Use them for a bit and then throw them away because honestly, you don't really want to wash them. But you want to put them in bags that are labeled soiled, and you want to throw them away with the same place you'd be dumping your chemicals. You can't just put them in the trash. You'll need to bring them to your waste management organization like dump or landfill, and you'll actually need to pay to dump them like I do. So there's an aspect to that as well. Now, again, for most of this stuff, this is really just informational. But for a percentage of what you need to learn as you get into more printing and more technique and more printers and more equipment, is you're just going to essentially need to know that you're going to need more of these things as time goes on. You're always going to need lots of vats to replace. You're going to need lots of screen protectors to replace those. You will probably eventually need things like screens and lights to replace. But in most cases, I often tell people when your light goes or your screen goes, replace the printer. In a lot of cases, it's easier and it's more cost effective to just go ahead and replace the entire piece of hardware. Anyway, that being said, good luck on your printing journey. Thanks so much for watching, as always, and we'll see you all again real soon.